What we're showing here is optimal monitoring. It's a system for measuring energy. We chose it some time ago on the basis of the fact that we wanted to be able to measure all of our energy usage. So we started out by simply wanting to understand which buildings were the most efficient and perhaps the least efficient on our school, and then to try and work on various initiatives to then develop a sort of a savings profile to then work on and how we're going to invest in the buildings and the infrastructure to then reduce our carbon. We found a huge number of other spin-offs with the system though, and what you're seeing on the screens here, on the right hand side you can see a screen that shows me just a daily profile. It shows me a profile of today when compared with the same day last week. So that's really useful just to see whether there are various trends that are happening in the school. In a term time we'd expect things to be fairly similar unless there's obviously seasonal or weather variations. But in the holidays we would expect to see an awful lot less in our energy use, provided of course we're switching things off in the right way. So it helps you queue a number of activities as well as just understanding what's happening with the energy system. So on the right hand side I've got a graph that just shows me today when compared with last week. That's a standard sort of screen, and at the top screen you can see that what we're doing, we're scrolling through a series of dashboards, and it's showing me a range of different information, and this has all come out of the optimal system. So I've configured it myself with a little bit of help from others, and we've managed to then come up with a series of metrics that can help us understand where the trends and otherwise might be. The other thing that the system really usefully does for me is it gives me a series of reports, and I get these every day. This one here just shows me it's an annual comparison report, and you can see there's a series of different graphs on here, and they're just showing year on year our comparison. So this one here is quite an exciting one for me because what it's showing is year on year we have saved on our gas. So the bottom, the greyed out or the darker band, that shows the last academic year or the last calendar year rather, and it shows that we've saved a lot of gas in that year. We do the same with electricity, and literally the system sends me these reports every day. So that's one of the reports that I get there. This is another one here, you might not be able to see this clearly, but it shows you electricity use across our site, and it breaks it down by building. So this shows you, the blue line here, shows you the cumulative electricity consumption, and then we've broken it down by buildings. And it's helped me understand which buildings are using the most and perhaps why. So for example in our kitchen we can see that one, the servery is being used, so the kitchen staff come in, the first thing they do is they turn the ovens on, they turn the servery on, and then they turn the air conditioning on, and that's because they like to work comfortably. But actually put all that consumption together, it starts to build up a profile of use, and I've used that to then give to the catering manager to then say, I'd like you now to see how you can save energy, and I give him a graph each week so he can see how he's doing week on week, and he sort of brainstorms it with his team to see how the efficiencies can come out. So for us it's been a really useful tool to understand consumption and then to help manage consumption. The other spin-offs with it are that it's a system that the children can use as well. So you can have 20 children logging on to the system in any one go. You can constrain the amount of information they've got access to, and indeed what they can interrupt and interfere with, so it doesn't damage the data you've got in the system. But what it allows them to do is to be able to understand buildings, so they can look at the headmaster's house and they can see when his wife is having her hair dried and when she's having her toast and when she's having supper and all that sort of thing. And the children can relate data to sort of real life activities in that way, and they've had a huge amount of fun doing that. So we use it in maths, we use it in science, we use it in PSHU, and it's just a way of understanding the school, consumption, that sort of thing. It's about being sustainable, about being responsible. So that's another spin-off of it. Where I've had some real value from it is where I've experienced anomalies. Say, for example, one of our buildings, we might have had the heating on over a weekend. I might not have expected to see that. That could be because the controls have gone slightly wrong. Under a normal circumstance, if you haven't got a monitoring system, you'd wait for your invoice to come in at the end of the month, and then you would see that something had gone wrong at some stage, or you're using slightly more over the month. Now, you might put that down to just the weather, you might put it down to other variances, but you might not interrogate it. With the system here, we can actually see if something has gone wrong the next day, and if we need to, we can enact on it the following day, which means that the invoicing come the end of the month should be where it's at, rather than being sort of exaggerated. The next stages for our use on this is to be able to put up, we do actually already do this, we put up dashboards very regularly to show on our information screens around the school. We've got 8 in total. We show the children, we show the staff precisely how we're doing with our energy saving initiatives. We've linked in waste to it as well, so all the rubbish goes in the dustbins and so on. We now can see that on the graphs, so it's another way of presenting information there. We want to try and put our transport use in there as well, so we can see how much fuel we're using in our school minibuses and seeing whether or not we're using the minibuses more than we should be, see what the tracks and the variations are there. And then finally, I think where it all comes to is being able to understand your carbon footprint, and carbon footprint is one of those terms that's used quite a lot, carbon reduction commitment and understanding your carbon footprint. In due course, when we've all got to report on carbon footprints and so on, I think we would be in a good position to do it based on the optimal system, because it helps us to put all that data together. We can then put it into a series of dashboards and then we can present it. It saves on all those spreadsheets and all the sweating over figures that we might otherwise have to do. So for me, it's a real win. We like the system, it's worked really well for us, and we really enjoy working with optimal monitoring to develop it further.